Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeXchange Week Ahead Webinar. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Today, we'll be going over, as usual, a look at last week, as well as a look ahead to the upcoming week, followed by a quick peek at the new UI looking to be released on the TradeXchange, hopefully within the next month or so. So, starting off from last week, the markets ended the week with strength. Technical traders mention the S&P 500 and NASDAQ are breaking above technical resistance levels that go back from April. One thing, though, that they do not mention is the fact that these breakouts are happening on a decrease of volume. That needs to change to add conviction to this breakout trade. As a technical trader, you ideally want to see volume come in with a breakout move. So we'll be watching that closely going on following the recent strength we've been seeing in markets. On the commodity side, this week we saw strength in coffee, gasoline, cotton, and nat gas. Weakness in corn, wheat, and silver. Yield markets and the US dollar continue to show strength. We hit a high of 3.69% from recent April lows of 3.29% on the 10-year yield. One interesting statistic traders follow happened during the earnings conference calls from the S&P 500 companies, where the executives referred to inflation as an issue for future quarters. Statistics are showing that only a little more than half of the S&P 500 companies mentioned inflation pressures compared to over 350 companies last quarter. Is inflation slowly becoming a non-issue? Or are companies easily integrating inflation pressures into prices? That, members, is the question that everyone should be asking. One thing that we have been discussing since the beginning of the year has been the complete disregard of fear as the VIX index volatility index continues to hit lows. Without fear, how can media contributors constantly state that there is an overwhelming fear in the markets? We need to see some type of movement in the VIX index, the volatility index, in regards to the complacency we've been seeing in markets, and that is what we're seeing. We're not seeing that fear. So as the current mindset, complacency in markets, even with all these nuances going on across the board in regards to inflation, the debt ceiling, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, China, we're not seeing any weakness or fear in these markets. What we're seeing, members, is we're seeing complacency. This week, we have a few top companies still awaiting earnings. The ones we'll be focusing on this week are the retailers, which are Costco, C-O-S-T, Best Buy, B-B-Y, Deckers, D-E-C-K, Dick's, D-K-S, following the weakness we've been seeing lately in Nike, Under Armour, and off of those Foot Locker earnings the past week. Also looking at Gap, GPS, Kohl's, KSS, Lowe's, LOW, and ULTA. The one name that we believe could really impact markets this week is the name of a company that is up over 120%, which is NVIDIA, NVDA. Full of AI momentum. Let's see if their earnings can represent this move, or has this all been AI momentum into a name that is up over 120%, basically a straight shot to highs. Interesting to see what NVIDIA does on their earnings report, and we'll go over that more later in the presentation. Outside of earnings, we have a fun-filled week of Fed speakers, as well as some key economic reports. We have at least 6 Fed speakers scheduled, not counting any unscheduled interviews. On the economic side, we are waiting for a few key metric reports. Tuesday, we have the PMI composite flash, as well as the new home sales. Wednesday, the FOMC minutes, but keep in mind, members, these are the minutes from the last FOMC meeting. We did have a few changes on the economic side, updates and commentary as well since that meeting by Fed speakers. Thursday, we have GDP, jobless claims, and pending home sales. Friday, a very busy day, durable goods, international trading goods, personal income and outlays, which is a key inflationary print, and consumer sentiment. As we can see, members, a pretty busy week on the economic front as well as the Fed speaker front. That's not even counting the continued commentary on the debt ceiling. So, members, now a look at your week ahead report. As always, we have your upcoming U.S. and world events, a list of your top earnings for the week, and a breakdown of the top events going on throughout the week. Company events on an individual basis as well, including top shareholder meetings, analyst and investor calls as well listed. Top conferences for the week. As always, members, if anyone needs a breakdown of these, just shoot us a message via email or ask the desk. It will provide you with any specific companies that are presenting during these conferences. Your U.S. economic calendar for the week. As you can see, members, we do have Fed speakers scheduled. We also have Yellen speaking on Wednesday, but we do have a very busy economic week, focusing on Thursday with your GDP and that personal income and outlays on Friday, which is a key inflationary print. Members, keep in mind this week is going into a holiday week next week with Memorial Day. That we do have the bond market early close on Friday, closing at 2 p.m. Your international top economic calendar following a Fed schedule breakdown, as well as the week ahead TradeX commentary. Earnings, members, even though we have a very light week, we still have a large amount of big company names still reported. As always, as you can see, Wednesday, we do have NVIDIA, NVDA. We'll be watching that very closely, as that has been one of the strongest names this year across the board in all three indices. Your weekly sector performance, as we see weakness in utilities, strength in technology, communication services, and consumer discretionary. It seems that technology is the strength every single week that we've been seeing. This market is run by the NASDAQ, up over 20% so far this year. NEC comparisons, as you can see, the NASDAQ very strong throughout the year, and followed by the S&P and the Dow. The fear and greed continues to take hold. 67 print on greed. I think we've been in greed for over the past month, so we've been seeing that mindset of bullishness continuing across the board on all three indices. Target rate probabilities, we are still basically expecting a no change at the next report. We are at around 82% on that mindset. AAII Investor Sentiment Survey. It's an interesting survey, members. We see a bullish mindset on an independent trader thought process. When it comes to a little more professional aspect, the Investor Sentiment Survey is not as bullish as you would expect. So you're stuck in this little conundrum of who is right. The professionals, which clearly have been incorrect in our opinion so far this year, as the AAII Investor Sentiment Survey has clearly been on a more bearish mindset than the traditional independent investor who's been on the greed bullish mindset throughout the year. So clearly, it's a weird situation we are currently in when it comes to sentiment survey. Year-to-date percent returns, members, sugar continuing to be the strongest on top. We saw strength in NASDAQ continuing. Strength in coffee, a bump of about 5% in coffee this week, as well as gasoline, a bump of about 6% on the gasoline side. The strongest along on commodity-wise was cotton, up close to 6 to 7%. On the weakness side, members, we did see weakness a little bit on silver this week, as well as a little weakness following in corn, down about 4% on the week. VIX, barely any move on the VIX, as well as the heating oil, not that big of a move. Nat gas, we did see a pop, members. We've seen that pop ever since not the previous, but the week ago on that Baker Hughes rig count where they cut off a large amount of natural gas rigs. And we've been seeing those continue to add to a bullish bounce off the bottom in that gas. Sector Outlook Weekly, as always, the top three: communication services, information tech, and consumer discretionary. The weakness continued to hover around energy, utilities, financials, and healthcare. Your FDA calendar for the week, as well as your expected IPOs coming up. Now, members, a quick peek at some charts, and then we're going to go over the UI email that everyone's been receiving, and we've had a few comments and questions on that. As always, members, just shoot us a question in the chat, or you can email us questions. We're going to answer as much as we can today, but this is just a brief look on the UI when coming up, and we're going to have much more coming very soon. Now on to charts. Gold daily. No changes to the charts, members. Last week we mentioned how that 2000 level is key. Once we broke that 2000 level, we saw weakness ensue right to that support at 1950s. This is no change to the chart, members. This is charts that go back weeks to months when it comes to resistance and support lines. We bounced off that support level and ended at a 1979, still below 2000, but above that 1950s support. SPY daily, no changes to the chart. We mentioned last week how a big range is being built at the 410s level at this point right here, and waited for a volume move. We did see a little pop in volume on this move upside, which garnered that move to the highs 420.72. We are watching this short-term gap back from August as well to see if we can fill that. But we are watching the SPYs closely, and the volume is key, members, to see that conviction move. NASDAQ daily, no changes to the chart. Last week we said that with all these technical bullish breaks, we need to see either volume or conviction. We did not get the volume, which is something that we were watching very, very closely. But we did get some sort of a conviction move above these breakouts. Look at this test on this uptrend as well. It continued to move across it, breaking above that resistance level, and a very strong move in the NASDAQ the past few days. So we are watching this closely. Without that volume, though, members, this is not a pure conviction breakout move. SPY daily on a technical moving average look, as well as your triple Qs, IWMs, and your 10-year yield. A 10-year yield daily on a more breakout. No changes to this chart, members. Do we even have to say anything here? Look at this breakdown on this downtrend. Once that downtrend was broken, once resistance was broken, you have 2 out of 3 signals indicating a buy. The third signal is a more moving average MACD look, but we do not include those in our initial breakdowns. But we did have a triple whammy across the board on this chart, and saw this move upside, hitting a high of closing at 3.692% on the week, going right into that 3.7, 3.8% initial resistance. Diamonds, DIA on a moving average and trend look. Your IWMs, no changes to the chart. Last week we mentioned how we are watching IWM closely. Levels of 170s to the 180s, still in that range, members. But we did see that downtrend break, which did indicate a short-term move, and that's what we got. Watching the IWMs very close in this range for any directional move. HYG daily on a moving average and trend look, as well as the S&P 500. We mentioned how a key move above 4,200 is needed for upside strength. Last week, we broke above 4,200, but we did end up closing below it at 41.91. Watching this very closely, members. This is a strong base range being built here with an upside break. Key resistance. A lot of people talking that 4,200 number. Key resistance. Watching it very closely for any indication on a directional move on your S&P 500. VIX, not much going on here. A very blah kind of a chart. Interesting in a market like this that we do not see much volatility. Oil, no changes to the chart. We are clearly in a range now in oil, $70 downside, 75 upside, very tight range. Been there for about a couple of weeks. Watching it closely for any possible move. We do have a downtrend break, but we are waiting for that volume to kick in on a directional move. Watching it very closely on your crude oil. US dollar, no changes to the chart. We mentioned last week that we broke above an over 1 month long range pattern built. We continue to hit highs, but trending right near that resistance point below the 104s level. Watching it closely, we hit a high of 103.618. We are trending right below that key resistance line, but we are watching it closely for maybe a back and fill or a breakout above, since we do have this downtrend break, and we're watching it very closely. Bitcoin right now is just hanging around. not much going on, trying to stabilize around this level, they don't want to see that break back to this support because there's nothing really, members, till this big gap down here on 20 again. So they're trying to hold Bitcoin above these support resistance levels to continue its moves on upside. SMH daily breaking out on the moving average and trend look, and your euro. No changes to the chart. This is another example of a pure technical chart. We broke the uptrend. Check. We broke not one, but two support levels with continued weakness. And we bounced right off of this longer, basically off the bottom low uptrend. Did not break it, bounced above it, bounced it, touched it, reversed. Key to watch this trend. On the upside, we do have support at this level. That key support right here that has nothing back to that $1 parity that we're watching very closely. So the euro is an interesting spot, watching very closely. Very excited to see what the next directional move will be on the US dollar and on the euro. Members, now a user interface breakdown of what we're working on at the Trade Exchange. We wanted to give you all a visual breakdown. First of all, members, just to keep everyone understanding how the Trade Exchange works and how we value all our members. All these changes are for our current members. As you all know, your rates are always going to stick where they are. From our members who have been with us from the start to our current members, your rate is what your rate is. You are locked in at that rate on a monthly or yearly basis. All these changes are just added value for our members because we value everyone we value to a high extent, and we want everyone to benefit from all the stuff that we are working on throughout the period of Trade Exchange. So jumping in on the UI. So basically, members, what we're going to be working on and what we are working on, as you can clearly see, is a new interface for all our members. The thought process is this, members. You have your main news desk, which will not be changing. You can easily pop it out, boom, from the UI. We're also working on the community chat room, as you can see, which would also be embedded here if you want to keep everything nice and tight, or able to pop it out and manage it according to your real estate on your computer screens. We have a new tab bar, which is more detailed and providing more benefits for our members. The thought process, members, we can have multiple rooms. We're thinking of adding a large cap room, just news though. Understand, we're not changing what Trade Exchange is. We are a news-based content provider. The news aspect just on large cap, a news aspect just on small cap, a news aspect just on momentum. Having the ability to do this down the road is something that we're very excited to do. But keeping Trade Exchange streamlined and provided with the content and speed we've been doing since day one. That's what Trade Exchange is all about. Our community room will be something where all our members can go over thoughts, ideas, keeping it very respectful and in an environment where it's not easy being a trader. It's always good to bounce ideas off of people. This is what we're thinking of doing when it comes to the community chat room of the Trade Exchange, moderated by the Trade Exchange itself, as well as some respected traders in the industry. So that is the new news desk, members. It's going to be a new UI, same mindset of what the Trade Exchange is. It allows us to add a lot more functions. It allows us to add a lot more visual changes to the news desk without changing the content and the way that Trade Exchange functions. You'll have the ability of popping out rooms, keeping everything nice and tight, working on numerous different rooms with information content that is provided for our members in case you just want an options room or you just want to have a filings room. That is what we're working on. And when it comes to the filings or a press release room, we'll have a press release room that has all press releases being worked on moving forward, as well as a filing room on insider purchases and the sales side. You have everything you would need to make your trading day successful. That's our goal here. Our goal is to make everything usable, provide you with all the content and information you will need to better your trading style. This is what we're working on for the year, members. This is very exciting for us. We're looking to release this hopefully within the next month or so to all our members. No changes, members, if you are a current subscriber to the Trade Exchange. All this is included in your current rate. We are also adding a new and improved sidebar, which will have a breakdown of rooms, community, squawk player, newsletters on a more direct basis, your week ahead reports, a better and usable search feature, as well as TradeX settings. So there's a lot going on here that we're working on when it comes to the Trade Exchange. We're very excited to release this. We're going to be providing a lot more feedback in the next few weeks with a lot more views in regards to what we're looking at, members. But this is something that we're very excited to do. And as always, we'll be sending out a survey in the next week where we would love to have feedback in regards to what, outside of the current news desk, what is needed or what you're looking for to better your usage of the Trade Exchange service. We're working on a lot, members. This gives us the opportunity of creating a portfolio as well, included down the road in the new UI that we're working on. Setting independent type of alerts for specific headlines, specific rooms. There's a lot to do, but we want everyone to understand we listen, we heard, and we're working on what is best for all our members. So members, thank you for joining us today. We're going to have a few questions that are through our email as always. If anyone has any questions, shoot us a message on the chat, and we'll be right back. A quick radio silent. All right, as always, one quick question, our thought process for the week. Members, this week, as we mentioned, it seems to be more on the economic and Fed speak side. We are going into the summer months, so we are expecting to see less volatility in markets. We'll see how this debt ceiling headlines continuing throughout the week. You can always look at the news desk, members, for all up-to-date headlines regarding the debt ceiling talk. But our thought processes, members, economic data, Fed speak, and keeping an eye on these earnings reports, especially on NVIDIA. That has been one of the top names that have been keeping these NASI names moving higher. Watching what NVIDIA does, keeping an eye on these retailers, will be interesting to see how the consumer is doing as well. Outside of that, members, stay on top of this volume. The volume is just not there with all these upside moves. Interesting to see how that correlates into future action. But as of right now, we're watching that closely for any move indications on volume. Couple of questions. We had someone ask a question in regards to the new UI. Members, yes, this UI is something that's going to be revolutionize our Trade Exchange news desk. It gives us the opportunity of adding so much more. And yes, the question was, will we see an increase in the typical subscriber, not for any new subscribers? Yes, with this new release, we are going to add more different types of levels of subscriptions. But keep in mind, all our current members, nothing changes. Nothing will ever change as long as you stay a member of the Trade Exchange. Your rate is your rate. Any changes that we do is all inclusive in regards to what we're doing. That's something that we will always keep. We will never raise rates to any of our members. Even if inflation is at 15, 20%, your rate stays the same, because that's the value you bring to what we do, and the ability of you taking your common suggestions and advice to making our service better. But yes, we are going to be introducing some new levels of subscriptions later this year. We didn't mention that earlier this year, that we will be doing some changes, and this is the reason for the changes that will be coming to any new customers down the road. So that's it, members. We will keep providing more and more details on our UI moving forward. We thank everyone for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Check the news desk, as always, to get yourself ready for Monday morning. Thank you. Enjoy. Trade Exchange out.